It would seem as though.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of It Would Seem As Though, the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Mostly nothing.
I'm Vesta.
I'm Annika. I'm here.
You are here.
I did it.
We are here in our state-of-the-art studio here
Yep.
in beautiful southeast Portland.
Stunning. It is beautiful today.
It is a beautiful day today. It's sunny and bright. And
Skies are blue.
cold and crisp. And
These are kind of great fall days too, where it's like the leaves have all changed. There's leaves on the ground, but it's crisp and bright. I love it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I like it because it's been so rainy that it's nice to have a little break.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. You know my favorite
I know.
weather is overcast,
You
rainy.
and garbage. Only happy when it rains.
I was like, what did you call me? You're
Trash.
equating me with garbage. That's disrespectful.
The band.
Oh, gotcha.
You and Shirley Manson. I should have said Shirley Manson.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
but it's fine. Just call me garbage.
I'm so sorry.
What Gavin the other day called himself a trash person, and I said, no. You are more upskilled than that. You're rubbish.
I like that because it does sound a little higher quality because you sound British.
Yeah. I said,
Put
I'm
it in the rubbish bin.
I said, I'm trash. You're rubbish. I'm an eggplant. You're an aubergine. You know what I mean?
I was watching Big Bang Theory yesterday, and it was when Penny's family... Well, it was when Penny and Leonard got remarried.
Sure.
And Penny's family was going to meet Leonard's family for the first time. And her mom was like, I just don't want her family to think that... His family think that we're white trash. And her brother goes, well, what color trash do you think they'll believe? I was like, that's perfect.
That is so funny, yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of white... The other day, we were sitting here talking, and Grace, you know how she asks me just the most random things.
Yes.
They're never linear, never have anything with what
Yeah.
we're talking about. She goes, when you were a child, what was your favorite cracker? And I said, Triscuits were my favorite. They're still my favorite cracker. And she goes, really? Even as a kid, Triscuits were your favorite cracker? And I was like, yeah, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I still love them.
Yeah.
I could eat them all the time. There was another one called Wheatsworth that I really liked. I just really like that kind of grainy, weedy cracker, whatever. And she looked at her brother and said, what's your favorite cracker? And she goes, my favorite cracker is Mom. Mom's my favorite cracker.
No.
And I was like,
wow.
how...
Get out.
dare... I mean, I'm complimented and insulted all in the same breath.
A backhanded compliment.
I know,
You're my
it's like-
favorite, but you're also a
A
cracker.
cracker. You didn't say I was a cracker shithead.
I remember being a kid, and the kids who were, like, cool kids, you know, being a cracker, people would say, oh, but you're a Weethan, and you're a Ritz. Like, really, we're grouping people together based on what kind of cracker they would be. And I'm like, y'all crackers. Like, you're all still just crackers. You know what I mean? You're just painting it a different color. But it's okay.
Right. How appropriate is it that I'm wearing my Ms. Cracker t-shirt?
Ms. Cracker.
Ms. Cracker. Because she's thin, white, and salty.
She is, actually. Yeah, I love that. Speaking of your daughter, she's exhausting.
Yeah.
But she was at my house the other day.
The queen.
The queen. Oh, the girl who wants everyone to do everything for her. She was at my house the other day, and we were talking about Christmas and presents, and we were talking about how Gavin and I are already done with Christmas, whatever. And I was like, what are you going to get people for Christmas, Grace? Just, you know, trying to get her to think about others. And she was like, well, I don't know. I have no ideas. None? You mean the people that you'd buy presents for, if you were going to buy presents, are the same people you've known your entire life, sans Gavin. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what do you mean? You don't know. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, what would you buy me? And she was stumped. And I said, what? Grace, you can't be stumped. Like, you know me very well, right? And so I had her write down. She put it all together. So it's like mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, Gavin. Like their lists of what she would get. And everyone's was normal and regular. Like yours, your favorite color, orange. Favorite animal, elephant. You know, you like drag and Christmas movies. Like things. Yeah, that's you. Yeah. I know who you're talking about. You know, the first thing she wrote for Papa was murder, which I thought was fucking hysterical.
He loves the murder.
Loves the murder. Everyone's was fine. For me, she wrote witchy stuff, men, spell books, cats, dogs, and TikTok. That is what she wrote. And I said, what? You said, what are you going to do? Buy me a man? And she was like, no, well, I could buy you a book. And I said, you could. And she was like, with men in it. And I was like,
Fair.
How funny. Like, you could. And then, it, of course, made me think about that story of...
All right, I have to tell this story.
Do it. It's my favorite.
So, when Annika was 5?
Maybe.
6?
Yeah.
Okay. Lived in a house over in North Portland with my first husband. And on the table, we had a coffee table book, which I wish I could remember exactly who it was or what it was, because I would buy it for her now. But it was portraits of men who were either scantily or barely clad.
Yeah.
And some not, I think.
Yeah.
But some were, but it was all art.
Yeah.
But whatever. And so Annika always wanted to look at that book, and I was like, no. Baby. This is a little old for you. And she was so fucking mad about it.
I was.
And to this day, practically 30 years later, she's still salty about it. She's like, I should have been able to look at that book. It's like, honey, you were 5.
I know. Well, I also remember, because there were adults in the house. I remember we're all sitting in the living room, and everyone got to look at it. And Shannon Brusso got to look at it. And Shannon Brusso, I remember saying, she's also a kid. Granted, she was like a senior in high school.
Right. A little different.
Yeah.
A little different.
I was mad though, and that story has stuck with me. So when Grace was saying, "Oh, I could buy you a coffee table book with men," I said, "Yes, you could."
But it has to be one specific book from my childhood. You got to figure out what that book was and buy that book.
Exactly, I know.
And then you're gonna look at that book and be like, "Oh,
I just thought it was risky and ooh,
right." You're all
saucy.
Wow.
I know.
Well, and I get that. I do get that. Especially considering it was kind of forbidden fruit,
Yeah, well, and do you remember back in the day, growing up in Carlton, Grandma had this poster on her wall, and it was decent size, but it was of a man wearing, like, a tank top and, like, white linen pants, and he was in water, and he was, like, up against a rock.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you know white linen and tank top material kind of goes sheer when it's wet?
I do.
You see, like, his whole body, and you don't see his, like, dingleberries and all that.
Right.
But you see you see where it should be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You see that
so
outline.
You feel the suggestion of everything.
Yeah,
sure.
I remember as a kid being like, what? Is that my grandpa? Like, I didn't... What is this? Why does Grandma have porn on her walls?
Right. Who is this man, and why can I think that I see everything?
His dingle hopper. Yeah, it was, and Grandma was just like, no big deal. She never took it down. It was there my whole life. And so it's really funny to me, like, that kind of shit. Like, Grandma was just her mostly naked wet man against the wall.
When I was a teenager, young teenager, the Playgirl magazine became a thing.
Okay.
It's like...
That's starting, like, what, the 80s then?
No,
70s?
I was not a teen in the 80s.
Right. You were 19?
I was 19 in 19, yes. 1981. No, it was the 70s, the early 70s, because I was a young teen.
Oh, okay.
And Playgirl magazine had just come out, and it was all a scandalo because there was somebody who was a well-known celebrity appeared in it.
Oh, my God.
I can't think of his name now.
Yeah.
I could if I thought about it very much, but it doesn't matter. Because he was like a TV actor.
Okay.
Anyway, but my mother went out and bought one of these Playgirl magazines, and I stole said Playgirl magazine.
Of course you did.
And went up to my room and I was like, naked men, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally got busted by the way.
Sure.
Absolutely got busted.
Yeah.
But the funnier story of the Playgirl magazine is, so we lived, as all of you have heard us talk about, in the tiniest town in, in Hicksville. And my older brother, who was a prankster, he and his friend went to this little tiny grocery store on Main Street. Mm-hmm. Well, those kind of magazines, they had them on the racks, but they were covered up to the title in brown paper.
Right.
So you could see the cover, but nothing else. I mean, the title, but nothing else. And so they slipped it out of said brown wrapper and put it up in the front window on the centerfold. Mm-hmm. So, naked man.
Completely naked man.
Right. His twigs and berry and everything
his
out there for everyone to see. Yeah. And it was, you want to talk about a scandal. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
In the giant town of Carlton.
And so when the store owner, of course she knew who did it.
Of course.
Called my mother to say, your son, defiled my store with this dirty magazine.
Yeah. You sell them, bitch.
After my mother got done laughing, it was like, well, I'll take care of it, whatever. But it was like, bitch, that's funny.
Oh, it's super funny.
That's super funny. I don't care. That's funny. Yes, he shouldn't have done it, but that's funny.
Yeah, right? I remember, because again, growing up, poor white people, going to people's houses or, like, family friends' houses, and their kids would be like, oh my God, look what my dad has. And, like, in a drawer or under his bed or whatever, just, like, stacks of Playboy.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, looking at them, and I remember being like, I don't understand what the big deal is, right? Like, it's not, I feel like Playboy is so, like, tame. It's just women who are naked, right?
Yes.
It's not women who are all...
It's not porn.
No, they're not,
it's not Hustler.
No, they're not being penetrated. They're not touching themselves. They're not spread eagle. You know what I mean? It's just women, like, posing in nature or with jewelry on or whatever. And I remember, like, little boy, or the boys, whatever scenario this is, being all... And I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why you're all hot and heavy right now. Like,
well, because...
she has a great body, sure. But, like, you guys think this is...
naked.
I know. But this is, like, the most scandalous thing they've ever seen. I'm like, girl...
I'm sorry, but I remember when boys that I was growing up with got all hot and bothered because in...
like, Sears catalog?
National Geographic, there
Oh.
might be a tribe somewhere where the women didn't cover their breasts. And it's like, oh, breasts!
I see some boobies!
Yeah,
weird.
It's like they would freak out. And I'm like, really?
But I do understand, I understand, like, the whole, like, ooh, we're not supposed to be doing this. And that's the only reason I ever bought in, because I was like, oh my God, I'm reading, like, only adult stuff, and I'm however old. Like, a kid, I shouldn't... But again, I was, like, only doing it because everyone's like, this is scandalous. And I
What's
said,
funny to me
scandal.
is my mother did not care that I looked at my stepfather's Playboy magazine.
Yeah.
Because, naked women, who cares?
Yeah.
But the naked men and playing girl, that's too much.
But again, they're not, like, having sex.
No.
They're just naked men.
Well, and the other thing is, to me,
yeah.
Playboy magazine was always kind of the classy. It's like, here are these naked women who've been airbrushed to Jesus.
Yeah.
And so they're all soft and beautiful and whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was an adult when I saw a Hustler magazine that I was all, I'm sorry, am I her gynecologist?
No.
I don't need to see up inside of her.
Well, it looks like
That's too much.
Looks like your uterus is intact. Thanks for showing me.
Did you photograph this while using a speculum?
Yeah, honestly.
I don't need to see up inside her. That's too much.
Oh my God, so many
Does
stories.
anybody?
No. Our next door neighbor, her name was Carol. I loved Carol as a
remember
kid.
Carol.
Yeah, Carol was great. Her son was an adult, moved out. I only knew him as an adult. Like, met him. He came back from the army, whatever. But we were helping her clean out. She had a bedroom that was just full of his stuff. And it wasn't like anyone could actually move in there. So we were slowly, surely helping move out. We had one of those big, like, wooden framed, like, waterbed kind of bed frames. So, they had, there was a headboard that had little shelves and whatever. But between the headboard and the floor, there was a little gap. Like, wall, floor, headboard. And I was all, well, we can't move the bed. So I'm, like, seeing if there's things back there. Ooh, what do I pull out? A gang of fucking just hard, like, Penthouse and Hustler. And I'm like, what? And I remember grabbing it and, like, taking it to Carol. One of them taking it to Carol, and it's just, like, falling open. And there's, like, things that my little child eyes should have never seen. And I was like,
Sure.
Carol, what is this? And she was mortified, of course.
bet.
And I was like, she's like...
Because she's all, I had these children here helping me, and now I have ruined them.
And now you've shown us porn, and I have to go home. Yeah, it was...
probably going to prison.
I know. Child porn. Nope. That's not what it means. It's different.
Nope.
But yeah, crazy. And, I just... Growing up, in where we grew up, I don't think that there was a ton of... I feel like boundaries, lines blurred a lot. Do you know what I mean? With being a kid to being an adult. Hence a lot of girls being pregnant at fucking 15 or whatever.
Yeah, well, I went to school with a whole lot of pregnant girls.
Yeah, right?
A lot.
Well, and I was telling Gavin the other day, I was like, growing up in small town USA, the line between, like, acceptable for adult and youth to have a romantic relationship was very blurred for a lot of situations.
Yeah.
And disturbing, you know what I mean? And in retrospect, with adult eyes looking back at it, it's horrifying to me.
Yes.
But again, as a young preteen or young teenager, I only wanted, like, a man, you know what I mean? Like a full-grown adult man who was a man with a beard and a man.
Same.
You know, I didn't want, like, teeny bopper Justin Timberlake. Like, that was never my gig, you know?
No. Same, and that's why I've always said, it's like my first crush was Cat Stevens, who was a full-grown man with a beard who, looked like
in a gorilla suit. Yeah.
In a gorilla suit, yeah. And so when everyone else is like, ooh, Sean Cassidy or Leif Garrett or, the little heartthrobs, I'm all, ugh. They look like pretty little girls. Yeah. They're lovely.
Sure. But they're prepubescent little boys.
But they're pretty.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to be with a pretty man.
I want a pretty boy. Yeah. No, not.
And it's not the competition of, oh, God, they're prettier than me.
No.
But pretty doesn't attract me.
Yeah.
I love looking at
not
pretty.
in that same way. Not sexual attraction.
It's like, well, you're so lovely to look at.
Oh,
That's delightful.
To me, it's the same way of like, you could look at a girl and be like, oh my God, she is so hot. She's sexy. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we want her. It just means that you look great. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people can't differentiate between that. Maybe more now because sexuality and gender is such a open conversation. But yeah, growing up in the country.
You know what's also interesting to me is when I was a child, and maybe when you were too, I don't know. When I was a child, it was very common it seems like for most dads to have a collection of Playboy magazines.
Oh, yeah. That's it, yeah.
And it doesn't seem as though that is the norm now.
No, because porn is online. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like people really need to have physical magazines because you can look at, it could be pictures, movies, whatever, of porn, and you can watch it for free. Do you know what I mean? So there's no need to have like stacks and stacks of Playboys.
Do you think most men still have porn? Or watch porn?
Yes. Oh, I would tell you that I would say most people who identify as boys or men from the age of 15 on probably watch porn. Oh, yeah. And like people you wouldn't even think of.
See, and there's my naivete because I'm all, really?
I want you to know that it's shocking to me because like you think about someone we know or whatever and think about them watching porn, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This is going to sound really weird, and I don't mean it. I was a weird kid, I'm sorry. But ever since I was a kid, when I would meet people who were couples or whatever, I'd be like, you have sex with each other? Like, in my head. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, like, trying to picture adults or people who are, like, straight-laced or hardcore Christians, whatever, in a situation where to be having sex feels forbidden and weird and wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So to have grown men, friends of my dad's friends, my friends' dads, whatever, having porn, it just felt like lines that shouldn't be crossed, which is, it's all fine. You're adults, do what you want. But as a youth being like, what are they doing? Like, they can't just be happy with what they have at home, that kind of mentality.
Well, and what's weird for me is even as an old woman as I am now, that's kind of what it makes me feel like. If you're, watching porn or doing whatever, it's like, so you're not happy with what you have at home. And that's maybe just maybe I'm just some old, Puritan. I don't know, but I'm, I don't know. It's
a dangerous mindset, though. It's a dangerous mindset to have to be like, oh, you watch porn, so I'm not valued. Do you know what I mean? You watch porn, so
I'm not enough.
Yeah, you don't think I'm attractive. And I mean, I've been there in relationships before when I'm like, really? You know what I mean? For being the person that I am and having done the things that I've done and been kind of an overtly sexual person through a lot of things. And I've known porn stars. Girl, I've been on porn sets. Like, and it was not a thing. But it was the fact of, like, my partner watching porn used to make me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Being a young adult and with partners that were shitty, it would make me feel like you're looking for something that I am not giving you or can't give you or whatever it is. Like, why do you feel the need, And that would be like a bone of contention because I was just so uncomfortable. And a lot of it comes with like dishonesty. Like, just tell me,
Right.
So it's a weird dichotomy because I feel like you as well. You performed when you perform more often, you performed in a very sexy manner. You like oozed of sexuality. But then when it comes to pornography, it is like a weird like liminal space. You know what I mean? We're like, well, we like being sexy. We like people thinking we're sexy. We like all of that. But I don't want you to also then look at a bunch of other people being sexy. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like, it's a weird line because I don't mind, like, if you're gonna watch Charlize Theron in a movie where she's hot and sexy and cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
sure
getting your jollies to, that's different. I don't like that. But but if you're just watching it and you're like, wow, she looks really great. Wow, cool.
Sure.
But if you're like going to watch porn that is somebody who is completely a different body type, completely, then it's like, oh, is that what you really want?
Right.
You know,
Right.
And that's how, and whether that's true or not,
Sure.
that's how it makes me feel. Because as a fat woman, of course, then I have those insecurities pop up of, oh, you really want this thin,
You know, big
this
titted
big
blonde
titted,
bitch,
right.
yeah.
And it's like, that's not and will never be me.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and so then it makes me feel like, oh, I'm not enough.
Right, and you know what's silly is because we have multitudes, because we are multifaceted, you know, there are specific, how am I going to say this? You know, people have a type. Oh, this is my type.
Yeah.
I feel like I've dated kind of a lot of different people.
Same.
And so, like, why can't everyone have, you know, diversified interests? You know what I mean? Just because, like, you're with me and then you're watching, I don't know, let's make something up. You're watching Latina porn or, you know, like black girl porn or whatever it is. Should I feel, not whether I should, would it make me feel inferior because you have, you know what I mean, diversified interests, because you think multiple types of people are attractive? Whether or not it should make me feel some type of way, it would. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It would make me feel that way. And that's my own issue. I talked about this in therapy too, but it was just, I don't know what it is. I think maybe like sexual trauma has something to do with it.
I think so. I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But in my world that has very little to do with reality,
Yeah.
I think that if, you know, in my marriage,
Yeah.
The only person you should be looking at sexually is me.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. No, I get that. I understand that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I said to you, as the person I was married to, if I said, you know, sex is now done, it's off the table, I don't want to ever do it again.
Yeah.
Then, you know, feel free.
Yeah, of course.
Since that's not the case.
Well, and I have another question though.
Yeah.
God, this is not our topic, but this is fascinating. Okay, so, and this doesn't have to be you. This could be hypothetical you, different reality.
Okay.
Would you, if your partner was watching pornography, would you want them to tell you, or would you want them to just watch pornography and you never know?
That is hard because I feel like, and that's the line there. I feel like I would want to know because I hate the feeling of dishonesty or things being hidden.
Sure.
I don't like that.
No, me either.
Because it's like, it feels like then the kind of the foundation of everything kind of starts to crumble.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's like, well, you aren't telling me the truth about this, so what else?
Right.
You know,
I get that.
And
No,
so
totally.
that's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, because I have been with people who openly watch porn. Not like in, you know what I mean? Like, they would just be, I'm gonna do this. And, like, that's fine. It still makes me feel uncomfortable. Or it did. I feel like I would just not want to know. You know what I mean? I think that if, hypothetically, Gavin wanted to watch a bunch of porn, I would prefer that he just, like, did it when like he went to the bathroom or whatever it was.
Right.
And it wasn't a thing, and it was never, it was never talked about. That would be a non-issue. But I mean, we've openly talked about everything. And because we are so open and because we do tell each other everything, I think it would have to be an agreement. It'd be like how people have agreements for opening their relationship or whatever. It'd have to be like, we have to communicate about things, but like, I don't need to know the details. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that would have to be, I don't want to know what you're looking at. I don't want to know how often you're looking at it. I don't want to know what type, none of that.
Right.
Because sometimes, depending on, this has been my issue. I got it. Depending on the type of porn you're looking at makes me feel fetishized.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, like, hypothetically, what if a partner of yours was looking at only, like, bigger women? You know what I mean? Then you feel fetishized as, like, a fat woman? That sucks. Then your relationship changes dramatically. Because have you just been with me because you fetishize being with bigger women? Right?
Right.
Or that happens with black women, trans women. Pick a type, pick your category.
Yes.
But you can be fetishized. So that to me is the problem. It's like, I never want to be fetishized as who I am.
You know, it's funny. I didn't think much about that until, and I know I told you this, until one day I was watching an interview with Jiggly Caliente.
Yeah.
Who is Asian and plus size.
And trans. Yeah.
And she said, so when she was a sex worker, that she was kind of like the jackpot because she was 3 separate fetishes all in one.
Yep.
So she could make the big bucks.
And if,
you know,
if people are into that,
yeah.
you know? Mm-hmm.
And it was like, because those are all fetishes, and
Yeah.
if you have all 3, oh, good Lord.
Yep.
You know, whatever. But it was like, and that hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have some really weird ideas.
Sure.
About
in general,
all of that stuff.
Okay.
You know, like, I feel like it almost feels like you're by doing that, by watching porn, by doing it almost feels to me like you're bringing somebody else into the relationship.
I get that.
Which I know is stupid.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I just, but the fact that porn is such an industry, and like, again, when you said, do you think men still watch porn? Yeah, and I think everybody. I think so many people watch porn, like a ridiculous amount of people.
And I know women watch it too, because
Yeah.
there's a big market out there for that. And I'm not trying to be like only men.
Whether people are like open about it though, like I'm going to tell you that most people watch porn, and you know, I don't know. And do people use it? Are people using? Do some people feel okay with their partner watching porn because it is like, well, I'd rather you do that than go out and cheat on me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather you do that than any other thing in the real world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I've known couples who watched it together
Ooh, I hate that.
and then used it as like a marital aid. It was like they would watch it together
And then get
get all
frisky.
hot and bothered
Yeah.
and do their thing. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, but they went into that was their thing.
Sure.
So
I don't know how I would feel about watching porn with somebody. Porn makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In general. But from youth, I had a problem listening.
Yeah, but this is so different because of the way you were raised.
Yeah.
Because as a child, having to hear it, having to sometimes see it,
Yeah.
and it's all in front of you, and so you were traumatized. by that shit.
So when I hear sex noises, mostly when I hear people making noises with their mouths during sex, I want to die. It makes me feel like I'm going to shrivel up and die as a person. It's horrible. And like going
because it takes you right back to that childhood nonsense of being in a house that wasn't appropriate, wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, having also been sexually assaulted, it takes you back to all of that shit.
Yeah, girl. It makes me feel like my mouth is sweating. It makes me feel like I'm going to vomit.
Yeah.
And like, I can't think clearly. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what's logical in that moment because I'm just so uncomfortable. I just need to leave.
Yeah.
But and hearing it, seeing it, it just was something that was so visceral to me that I was like, boo, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And again, on the other hand of that, I used to dress very scantily, if at all, you know, and been a sex worker and done all these things. And so it is like an interesting...
I know, it is. It's a weird line, and I get that. I mean, I never was a sex worker.
Sure.
Because I wasn't smart enough to charge.
You didn't capitalize on that.
I did not. I mean, I had a lot of sex with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, but never was smart enough to get any money out of it.
Sure.
I probably could have
monetized that girl.
Yeah. You know, but I also have really kind of old-fashioned ideas about a lot of stuff. I don't know
Weird,
how
right?
that all lives together in the same place.
Well, it's because I think a lot of it has to do with living in the United States. And the reason being is because this country is really founded on like puritanical pilgrim kind of ideals. You know what I mean? Where it's like sex is for procreation, that's it. You know, we're very like prudish in nature, but then there's this whole market of sex sells and everything is sexual, hypersexual through the male gaze. You know, Jessica Simpson eating a burger.
Yeah.
Sexual. Like pick a fucking thing from anything and there's sex is so major. The fact that like Victoria's Secret fashion show is a thing every year.
Yeah.
Things like that where it's just hypersexuality but in a culture that shuns hypersexuality. So it's this weird dichotomy that we live in. And I think everyone in the United States, we have to walk that fine line because we'll see billboards of like a girl wearing like triangles over her nipples and a piece of dental floss for underwear. And people are like, oh my God, sexual. And then they'll go to church. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is a very interesting place we live in. And that's what, I mean, we've had to learn. That's how we're uncultured, right? We've had to learn to navigate this prudish world that is also has a mask of hypersexuality.
Well, and then, you know, and that's the other thing is in my own world, in my own beliefs, in my own whatever, it's like my own morality. I'm fully like, if you want to be a sex worker, be a sex worker. You want to be an exotic dancer, be an exotic dancer. You want to do anything, I don't care. That's your life. That's your business.
Doesn't bother me.
That's your body parts. I hope you're being safe.
That's it.
That's all, because having had a friend who was murdered in that field, please be safe.
Yep.
That's all I care. But be safe also that you don't get STIs, that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But be smart, be safe. I also had a friend who was, who almost lost her life. I've had friends who've had all of their money stolen.
Yeah.
I've had, it's like just... That's my bigger concern. If you're having sex for money, I don't care.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
If you're getting something good out of it,
yeah,
it's your body. I don't care. So I don't have that.
No.
And I was like, any of the things really, that's like that side of it, I don't care. I mean, if you're appearing, in movies, if you want to be in adult films,
do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the line. It's like, you're going to be in all these adult films. As long as my husband ain't watching them, I'm good.
Right. You're all, and I'm going to put blinders on him, pluck his eyes right out of his head.
Right out of his head. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's like, that's where it gets weird.
Do you want to know something? I do wonder, because there is a lot of conversation that, like, monogamy isn't natural. Have you heard about that before?
Yes.
And, like, whether that is or not, I'm a true monogamist. I just want to be with one person, whatever. But monogamy in, like, a nuclear family is, like, a colonialist idea. Do you know that? Like, because indigenous families before, not that they were, like, into polygamy, but they just didn't label shit like that. And the nuclear family of, like, mom, dad, and kids. That wasn't a thing. Everything was raised on, like, extended family. And marriage was obviously different because marriage is, again, a Western institution.
Yeah.
In the sense of we know it now.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting to think about indigenous people who lived here before, who lived here originally. They weren't following the same sort of morality that we're following when it comes to sex and bodies. That's why they were able to have multiple genders. That's why they were able to, maybe have multiple partners or whatever, because everybody raised the children, because everyone contributed, because everyone was a part of, like, the family. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so there is a different in ideology. It's just really... Pilgrims came here and Puritans came here and really reinforced into the quote-unquote New World that this was going to be some sort of pure nation of no sexual deviancy.
Right.
Which is insane. And so, like, if we look at Puritan ideology, it is like, work hard, don't spend your money, don't have sex unless it's for procreation, no enjoyment. You know what I mean? Like, don't dance, don't sing. Like,
have no fun.
Because idle hands are whatever.
The devil's workshop.
Right. So if you just keep working.
Or the devil's playground.
You're working
whatever
for the...
it is. Yeah.
And I learned this in a sociology of religion. Like, you're working for the glory of God. Like, you're continuing to work to prove that you are prudent and that you can save your money, and you'll get to a point where you weren't frivolous, you didn't enjoy life, so you're going to get to heaven.
Ugh.
And it was proving to other people that I have a place there, not you, because I am not spending my money and I'm accruing wealth. Yes. And that's how... And so Protestants, that's what they were. Protestantism and their whole ideology of, like, work ethic, that's where the American work ethic comes. Right? It was the Protestant work ethic, where don't be idle, keep working, amass wealth, and don't spend money, be frugal, right? It was initially so you could get to heaven, because there's this whole idea of, like, everyone's already chosen. Who's going to get to heaven? These people are already chosen, right?
Oh, okay.
So you don't know if you're chosen or not. No matter what you do, good, bad, or otherwise, is going to change that. So people would be like, well, I own this business and I have all these enslaved people and I have all of this wealth and all this stuff and I don't spend my money. And that was amassing your wealth to prove to God that you were worthy because you were following the Protestant tenets.
That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking insane?
That is the most bizarre thing. I know that we've talked about that a little bit before, but it just doesn't make any kind of sense.
No, it doesn't.
But, going back to the family, what it was like before the colonist kind of culture is like, when I started watching the show Sister Wives,
okay,
I thought the idea of having sister wives was fantastic. Other than the sharing my husband. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have a, village of folks who would all say, yeah, I'll take the kids today, and you go do your thing.
We all live in a cul-de-sac?
Yeah, I would love that.
Oh, dreamy.
I mean, the fact that we have our own little, thing here with you and Gavin living on the same, so that I can just go, go over to your sister's house.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That I can be like, I need a little bit of time with you not here.
Yeah.
Go over and see your sister.
Yeah.
Whatever. But the idea of having other people, and I know that in Indigenous families, and still in Indigenous families, there's all the aunties.
Oh, yep.
And the aunties are just as much an authority figure as the mom.
Yep.
The aunties and the grandmas and the whoever, all of these people are authority figures in that child's life.
Yeah.
And that child would never be like, well, you're not my mom.
No, not
That's a
everyone
very
wants.
white child thing to say.
100%.
By the way, and that is a white child thing to say. That is not a Latino child, a black child, a native. No, because the aunties and the grandmas are just as much. That is so, and that's a funny thing to me that I didn't know growing up.
Yeah,
and I've learned that as an adult. Is like that is a white child.
Yeah. Well, and what you mentioned Latino and black families, but all of these families are also very focused and dependent on extended family.
Yeah.
Like, think about black women specifically in a time of like Jim Crow or even before that, where they had to leave the house to take care of white people's children or cook or whatever it was. That means the other women who were not working were raising their children or were helping take care of the children.
Yeah.
And so in Latino families too, people depend on extended families. That's why this idea of just nuclear family of mom, dad, and siblings isn't conducive. That's why there was the whole issue of like housewives in the 50s and 60s like losing their mind and needing to be put on like laudanum and shit because they were bored. They were bored and they weren't valued as being mothers or people.
Right.
You know what I mean? They kept the house clean. They made sure their husband was happy and they made sure the kids were, you know what I mean, dressed, clean, whatever. And then they went and did social events and they went and grocery shopped. But that's boring as fuck. They didn't have any true purpose. Right. And they were subservient. And so to look at cultures, indigenous, black, Latino, whatever, most Asian cultures too, they believe in the collective opposed to the individual. Like the collective needs to thrive. Everyone needs to be healthy and happy and taken care of, and not just you. And that's why Western American, like Western, so England and here, all of that kind of ideology of, well, this is our family, so we care about. That is so new. That is very new in the world compared to families and kin taking care of each other. Yeah.
But it's also the same culture that throws away the elderly.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Whereas in most other cultures, they honor.
They take care of them.
Revere and take care of the elderly.
Yeah.
Which is something that white folks don't really do.
No. And one thing, we're talking about indigenous families. There was mom and dad, and everyone was an auntie or a grandma, but everybody else was auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it could be your grandma's sister, that could be your cousin's grandma. She's still grandma, right? And so when people hear mom or auntie on the reservation, everyone turns because you're mom or auntie to everybody. And I just think that that's not only healthier, but I think that it gives children a multitude of perspectives, right? You're not just learning, this is what my dad thinks and this is how my mom thinks. You're learning how all these individuals think and how collectively what they do as an individual person contributes to the family, contributes to the tribe.
Right.
But it's so focused, again, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're an individual, make something of yourself, be a man, whatever it is. It's all about the individual. And that's the shitty thing is everyone's telling you to do something. Everyone's telling you what to be, how to be it as a singular person. But no one's telling you, what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of pulling myself up by my bootstraps? What's the opposite of that individualistic idea that Western culture thrives on? That's why, girl, maybe it's just in protest to myself, but the whole idea of work culture to me is fucking-sane. 40-hour work week, stupid. The fact we pay for health insurance, stupid. The fact that not everyone can be subsidized from the government, stupid. The fact that people are homeless, the fact that people don't have food, the fact that children can't go to the doctor, this is stupid. It's all based on the idea that you, as one singular person, should be able to pull yourself up and go to college, pay off all your debt, have a family. It's not possible.
The other day when I was talking to Grace about working and I said, my youth, I said, when I first moved to Portland, I said, obviously I worked. I had to work because you have to, I said, but I had virtually no bills.
Yeah.
I paid rent, and I paid for the food that I ate.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't go out and buy clothes. I had clothes, and I made them work. Mm-hmm. I didn't buy gas. I didn't have a car. I didn't pay insurance because
I have a car. Right.
And I didn't pay for medical insurance because that wasn't even a thing. You only paid for medical insurance if you had a job. There was no way to just buy insurance.
So what did you do then? Could you still go to the doctor?
Yeah, but then you just had to pay for it.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket. But it wasn't as expensive as it is now.
Sure.
It wasn't like $1,000 to go to see a doctor. Yeah. Whatever. But I said, but I worked enough to cover my bills and little more than that because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I said, but it was affordable then. And it was a reality that was a possibility. That's not a reality now. Because I don't know anybody who, starting out, can just, go live in an apartment.
No.
You have to have multiple people.
Yeah.
Multiple incomes. And you can still barely scrape through.
Yeah. Girl.
Yes. And it's crazy. So this world has gone all kinds of crazy. And I saw a comedian the other day who's not from here. And I don't remember where she's from originally, but she's from a country with, where they have insurance that is, whatever, all the things. And she was saying how she moved here 9 years ago, and every time she goes home, she's like, I have to explain to people why I live in America. It's like defending a bad boyfriend. And she's like, wait a minute. And they're like, wait a minute, you have to pay for insurance.
Yeah.
You have to pay for schooling.
No.
And she's like, but I get to do what I want. And it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, does it even out though? And that's the thing. People are like, well, freedom. Okay, there's 130 sovereign nations in the world. Lots of places have freedom. Do you know what I mean? But
I know, but people, especially Americans, have this notion that this country is some unique place that has all these freedoms that no one else has, and it's like, really?
It's ridiculous to me. Well, and it's what I love about the current time we live in is that all of that bullshit we've been fed about being the greatest nation and whatever is going by the wayside because we are not. And people need to realize that that is propaganda. It's bullshit to be told that just because we're the United States, we're better, stronger, faster, whatever. Look at every atrocity we've ever done, and it's done by white men. And the fact that we think we're stronger and cooler and better, we're not. So many people within the population of the United States are ignorant to the fact of anything else in the world.
Yeah.
And would do because the government said, or they would not do because the government said. Right. You know what I mean? There is no real solidarity. There is no real way to be alive, do some labor, grow up, and have everything taken care of. There's no way to be secure in the United States because every minute of every day it could all be gone.
Well, and social media, I think, has just made it so much worse because people will see shit and believe whatever they see. It doesn't matter if it's even feasible.
Well, I think you're talking about your children.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm talking specifically right this moment about the Trump followers who people will say to them, so you believe, Trump is still the one. He's still the, he's indicted on 92 charges of whatever.
Well.
And they're like, well, yeah, but he didn't do it. And it's like, but there's proof, and everybody else, and those people they were tricked into talking against him. And well, if he's found guilty, are you still going to vote for him? Yeah, absolutely. It's like, so
it's just woeful.
If he's in prison, you still want to vote for him as president? Yeah,
it's just so
that's just ignorant.
Yeah, and the fact that in the United States we have a two-party system and they are so antithetical to each other is fucking insane to me. How do you live in a nation and what each party wants is so different from each other? That's not sustainable.
No.
And the fact that we are how many years into the United States being a thing? 100, 200 and something?
Well, 1976 was the 200-year
anniversary. So 250-ish?
Do the math.
I don't want to. So roughly 250 years we've been around. But we've talked about this before. Empires don't last that long. You know what I mean? And we are that. We are an imperial colonizing empire.
Yeah.
And
the cracks are showing.
Girl, and I know you mentioned social media being a problem. I also think social media has been a really resourceful tool because it connects people faster. People can mobilize,
absolutely.
Network, whatever. And that's helped, that BLM, that's why those protests were worldwide. Do you know what I mean? And so
I agree. I think there's a lot of good that has come of it.
Yeah.
But there's also you know, these people, they hear something and they just glom onto it like, well, I heard it on the internet, so it must be true.
Yeah, I heard it because freedom of speech, and they said the truth, whatever. But it's never, at this point, none of it is sustainable because my generation, people in your generation, but my generation down are like, no more of this bullshit. You know what I mean? How can this can't continue? Because people are learning the truth.
Right.
And I'm just really interested to see how this continues. You know, what's going to happen next.
Well, and, you know, the fact of the matter is the world's on fire. The other day you brought up to me what's going on in Iceland. Mm-hmm. So, and I didn't know because I haven't been watching the news. I don't watch the news because it's all bad news. Mm-hmm. And then I just get depressed and blah, blah, blah. Well, so I went and looked on the news, specifically about Iceland. Good God. Yeah. In the last 24 hours, they've had over 2,000 earthquakes.
Yeah, girl.
2,000.
Horrifying.
And now they're having, of course, you can't have that many earthquakes without having some pretty serious shit happen. Yeah. So they're having sinkholes, and the ground is just cracking apart, and the roads are splitting, and people are being evacuated. And the southern, I think it's the southeast, I don't know, it's the southern part of Iceland has been evacuated. Mm-hmm. Because they said it can't not go bad. Yeah. They said there's not even possible that at this point, you know, it's not going to continue and get worse because the earthquakes haven't stopped. Yeah. And they said the magma field is growing, and they said the volcano is going to erupt. Yeah. They don't know when. No. And it makes me, of course, think about the whole Mount St. Helens thing because I lived through that mess. Yeah. Because it wasn't at that point a matter of if, it was a matter of when. So now they are living with these nonstop earthquakes and these whatever, and it's like part of Iceland could be completely wiped out. Yeah, girl. You know, and the man that I listened to interview, he was in Reykjavik because he had left the town he was in, and they told everybody, you have 5 minutes to go into your house and get what you need. Period. And then get out. 5 minutes. And think about that. You have 5 minutes to go into your house, take what is most important to you. That doesn't mean you're going to go in and grab your television and your whatever, you know, and I don't know what's important to most people, because it certainly wouldn't be my television. No. You know, but it would be like, 5 minutes, what do you even take? Mm-hmm. You know, I would for sure take my computer because it has all my pictures in it. Well,
and it's funny, there's 4 of you, 5 of you. Well, basically 2 of you and a half.
Right.
But between you and your husband and your children, I mean, your children aren't going to be super helpful either. But yeah, what would you grab? Because me, I was obviously...
The dogs.
Yep. I would grab my animals. What I would do, grab a trash bag, right? Trash bag. Dump my pills in there, dump my skincare in there, dump my makeup in there, dump some clothes in there, and I would probably be done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just run around and just scoop shit in. I'll fix it later. But like, as long as I can. Yes. You know what I mean? I would just be like supermarket sweeping that motherfucker and then running. Because what
5 minutes. Yeah. Well, and you're hoping that in that 5 minutes, nothing worse happens.
Yeah.
Because the man who they were interviewing said that he, in the time that they were evacuating, that they had to close one of the roads because the road literally split open.
Oh, girl. And it's like,
no, thank you.
No, right?
No, I don't want any part of that.
So not only and I saw pictures of like the volcano and showing like pockets of lava.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like in a geology book or whatever. And it shows like where more lava is moving to these pockets that are just expanding. And so it's all going to crack. It's all going to explode. It's horrifying. So not only is this happening in Iceland, and then there's a genocide, you probably don't know about this, happening in Congo. Do you know about that?
No.
It's been going on. Look up. There's a genocide happening in Congo. It's like, to me, it feels like when the genocide was happening in Rwanda.
Yes. I remember that.
And no one really ever talked about it. Because comparatively to genocides that have happened, people felt like it was a no big deal. Because there are 2 genocides that we talk about regularly as Americans. American Indian genocide, Holocaust. Those are the 2 things, right?
Yes.
But there's been lots of them. Lots of genocides that have happened. And so that's happening. Iceland's happening. Between Israel and Palestine is still happening. And that's just getting bigger and scarier because world powers are throwing their hat into the ring.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And it's going to be the West, which I'm not on that side, you know what I mean? Versus the rest of the world, which is horrifying to me. And so there's a lot happening in the world. It is all very depressing and very scary. And don't watch the news, right? I would look up, like Google events that happened this week, news, and then find bullet points. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Don't read because it's too much, man. And we should know. The reason I like to read it, the reason I like to know is because if these people are living through it, then I should at least know about it.
Yes.
I should at least know about these people who are never going to be heard or seen, or they're going to die. And it's devastating. It is, all of it's very devastating. But I can't, they're living through it. I can at least know about it. You know what I mean?
I do. And one, I want to share with you something that's kind of interesting and weird.
Okay.
When I was in school,
Okay.
hundreds of years ago, the big threat was from Russia.
Right.
Everyone assumed that if there was a World War III, whatever, it was going to be Russia. Russia was going to be who did us in. Well, I don't remember who it was, somebody who was like Nostradamus, somebody like that, who was predicting way in the future, was like, the big finish, the big war was not going to come from there. It was going to come from the Middle East.
Interesting.
And it's like, looking at this shit that's happening there now, it's like, well, that looks like what we're gearing up to.
Well, and does this not... It fulfills like the battle that's been going, the occupation that's been happening in Palestine for the past 8 decades is like a prophecy for most major religions. To bring on the end of days, Christians need all of the Jews in the world to live in Palestine. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, in the Bible, in the Bible, it talks about all the Jews need to move back to Palestine, a homeland, a religious homeland for Judeo-Christian Islamic religions. They need to move back to the homeland, and then they get wiped out, and that brings the second coming of Christ.
Oh boy.
Well, because that's the whole beef between Jews and Christians, right? Is that Jews killed Jesus, and that's literally it. That is literally the divide between Jews and Christians. It's because Christians, to this day, will say that Jews killed Jesus. Whether that's true or not, I don't really care. It's something so fucking stupid to hold on to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the whole idea of like Israel becoming
Really, it was the Romans who killed.
exactly,
Jesus.
but like the whole part of like Palestine becoming Israel is fulfilling like Christian prophecy. Do you know what I mean? So
Great.
is it interesting to you that the West, that is predominantly Christian, is backing Israel for all the Jews to go back to the Middle East? For what? It's one, so they can have a power in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
It's so the West can have a power. But also, is this the end? You know what I mean? And is it going to be okay? Are the Jewish people just going to love going to Israel when it's covered in Palestinian blood? I just think, like, it's so fucking weird. But yeah, so it's going to be a horrible thing because, again, the West, the United States, Canada, Europe supports Israel, while BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and every other Arab/Muslim nation
supports Palestine.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about that is, there is no good solution. There is no good outcome. Nothing good.
The only thing
can
would
come
be
of it.
integration. The only way would be...
Well, yes, but that's not going to happen.
It won't happen.
I mean, after 8 decades of this fight, that is not going to happen. If that was going to happen, that would have happened.
No.
At any point, they could have said, you know what? Let's just all live together. And I will tell you that something kind of surprising, one of my friends was saying that because her family lives there.
In Israel?
In Israel. And when they met, it was like one of their like in-laws.
Sure.
She's like, the first thing they said was, oh, he looks Palestinian. And it was like, when a white family meets somebody brings home the black husband. It was like, oh.
Oh, no.
And it was
the
like,
other.
But it was literally like, oh. Mm-hmm. And it was like, are you Palestinian? And he immediately was like, oh, no, I'm this, this, and this. Because it's like, no, that's a bad thing. I can't think of. And then I was like, that is so bizarre to me.
Isn't it ugly?
At the same time, it's how it is here.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
White people to any other brown person.
Thing. I'm sorry, you're some shade of brown? What are you?
Well, and for how long has it been Mexicans? How long has it been like, oh, Mexicans are coming here, sending their worst and taking our jobs? You know what I mean?
Well, but she actually did say to me that they think of the Palestinians much like Americans think of Mexicans.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
as like non-human workers.
Like, as opposed to just your neighbors?
Yeah, girl. Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem. Perhaps that is the issue.
Maybe.
And it's like, but that's my concern, of course, is that this can't end well.
No. Well, and so it was like British controlled it for a long time after World War I. The British controlled Palestine. Yeah. Well, then they had a mandate. I don't remember what it was called. It doesn't matter. They had a mandate and then took it back and then basically gave ownership to Palestine to the UN, right? And the UN said, well, I have an idea. We'll partition it. Half can be yours, half can be Palestinians. And that's where Gaza Strip and, the other one. Oh, what is Gaza Strip? West Bank. That's how those were formed. But if we look at it over the years, those settlements, where the Palestinians live, West Bank and Gaza Strip, have been shrunk and split up and taken because of Israeli settlements. And so that's not a partition. The partition never worked. And so, there is no end to it. And whatever the UN thought was going to be a solution is not the solution. And so basically this conflict, this occupation is going to drag fucking everybody into it over the ideology of Zionism and over the ideology that God said you deserve a land. But that's not even true. But it's just nuts to me, dude. It's so crazy to me that we're going to fight over this. We're going to fight over a book. You know what I mean? We're going to fight over what God said to whoever, however many thousands of years ago. And my question is who was the first Jew? Was it Abraham?
Probably.
One of them. He wasn't born in Palestine. Do you know what I mean? If people are using the holy books, he wasn't born in Palestine. He was born in what is now Iraq, right? And then God told him to go to Palestine and kick out everyone who lives there, which we talked about this, where the Canaanites and whatever. And so it's weird to me, what are we following? And that's why it is just a political ideology. It is pushing to take over land. It's colonization, Whether your daddy owned it 5,000 years ago.
That everything comes back to the evils of colonization.
Because people are never going to be satisfied with what they have. People are never going to be satisfied. Having Palestinians live in a very prominent land that is important to all Judeo-Christian Islamic religions is some sort of slight to Christians and Jews. It's literally not. Just because they're Islamic, I don't know why it's a slight. But colonization, Westerners get mad when they think the other has something that they deserve. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The other owns this land, well, I deserve it.
Also white people.
Yeah, and the thing we were going to talk about, since it's Native American Heritage Month, or history, was we were going to talk about Native stuff. And that's literally what I was going to talk about today, was colonization and the taking, just because you have it and I deserve it and you don't. That's it. And colonization has to do with land.
Well, then we'll have to talk about that next week, because that is an important topic.
Yeah.
But
we've made it to the end.
We have, but I want to talk about
porn and conflict.
I want to porn and conflict. That's what I was going to name my autobiography. Porn, but because that seems like the name for anything that should be in my life.
Yep.
I want to end on a different note altogether, because with stress and world on fire and awful things. I want to give a book. I want to recommend a book.
No.
It is the autobiography of Viola Davis.
Okay.
I think it's called Becoming Me.
I love that.
It is fantastic. I listened to it on the Libby app, which is the library app.
Okay.
And she reads it, so it's her amazing, fantastic
voice.
I
love her, yeah.
So being read to by Viola Davis, it doesn't get any better than that.
I'll take it.
What I learned was that amazing woman grew up in absolute poverty. We're talking, we grew up poor. And it's funny because I was listening to parts of it with my children, and it's she talks about living in this apartment where there was a long period of time where there was no running water, no heat, no electricity, no, whatever, and it was overrun with rats. Ugh. And I said to my son, I was like, I have had all of those things, but not all at once. So I've lived through each one of those things, but never overrun with rats. Yeah, we've had rats, but never overrun. It's but I've never had them all at once. Right. But because this woman said, I have a purpose, and decided very young, she's never, she never was because I'm poor. Right, no. Because I'm black. Because I'm a girl. Nope. I can't. She said, I'm going to be an actor.
And now look at her.
Was like, okay, I'm gonna. And so now she's gone on, of course, to become this multi-award-winning, brilliant actor. So find it, read it, listen to it. However if you prefer to read, it's out in paperback by now, or hard. I personally would rather. I like reading hardback.
Me too.
Agreed. Whatever. But get the book. Read it. Viola, she's amazing.
I love that. Yeah.
I also just read the Jeanette McCurdy.
Oh, is it so good?
It's so good. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died.
I'm Glad My Mom is Dead. Yeah. Oh my god, and the backlash she got for that.
The title, which put a lot of people off and made a lot of people angry. Yeah, don't let that throw you because it's really good.
Well, and there's a reason she's glad her mom is dead. It's not just because she's an ungrateful little bitch.
Her mom was a monster.
A monster.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't have to like your mom if she's a bad person.
Yeah, her mom. Ooh, her mom fucks her up.
Yeah, I can't.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And on that note, so next week we're actually going to talk about our topic.
We're not going to talk about porn.
We might. Who knows?
I know.
You never know.
You never know.
We do not ever know because we weren't even going to talk about. I don't even know how we got on that topic, but it doesn't matter.
No, me either.
Because tangents are topics, and there we go.
We have a topic, and then we just orbit around it for a while, and then next week
we did talk about Native American stuff.
A little bit.
We did talk about we touched on those things.
Yeah.
Because it is Native American.
It just shows you how everything is connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You got it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so, if you would like us to talk about anything specific, or you want to tell us that we're all full of shit, or you want to tell us your opinion on any of the things we've talked about, it would seem as though at gmail.com. I would like to actually hear other people's opinions about what we were talking specifically with porn and stuff.
Yeah.
I would really love to hear what other people have to say.
Or if you just have an opinion that you want us to be want it to be known, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So we'll talk to you next week.
We will. About natives. Get ready.
Yeah. We'll talk about real stuff.
All right. That's all. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
It would seem as though